guys, welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast Coffee Break Sessions, the show where we cover foundational Treasury topics and questions in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your coffee. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Treasury Update Podcast Coffee Break Sessions. This is your host, Alexa Cook, joined today again with Craig Jeffery, Managing Partner at Strategic Treasurer. Welcome back, Craig.
Thanks, Alexa.
So today we're going to be covering what are days payables and days receivables. So Craig, what are these days, both payables and receivables?
These are great terms that people use in the arena of working capital when you look at managing your working capital. And days payable or days payable outstanding or days receivable outstanding, these are measurements of efficiency. They're not measurements of value directly. They're a measurement of how many days of your payables do you have that you haven't settled. So, for example, your cost of goods sold is a good indicator of how much you're going to have to pay. And so days payable is a reflection of how many days worth sits there. So you use one of them as a denominator to come up with that factor. But 30 days payable outstanding is, 30 out of 365 days worth of your cost of goods sold. So it takes the financial measure and then translates it to days. It's similar for days sales outstanding, but this is on your receivable side. So what you've sold, and it translates that to a day average. And instead of using cost of goods sold, it uses a revenue figure. What you've sold is what you should be collecting. And hopefully that number is greater than what your cost of goods sold is. And so there's more dollars in a day of receivables than in payables for going concern companies.
That makes sense. So why are both of these important?
They're both important because they are a key measurement to show how efficient your organization is in turning your inventory, into goods sold and converting your receivables into cash. And so the more efficient you are, the more easy it is to expand without requiring more and more capital. If you're inefficient on the receivable side or the days sale outstanding, every bit of growth means you have to have more capital to support your slower collection cycle. On the DPO side, if you keep extending it, you're going to have trading partners who may fail or will start charging you larger, higher prices to support the fact that you're using them for your liquidity measures. So it's really important from an efficiency standpoint, and no great organization can be great without managing their working capital properly. And so this typically translates into days sales outstanding, days payable outstanding, and some other measures.
So why would Treasury care about these two different days?
Well, Treasury cares about liquidity and working capital, how much capital has to be tied up to support the business. And this is great for forecasting. But they care about these days because inefficiency means they have to get more capital, which makes the overall organization less efficient. So the efficiency of the operation has an impact on the capital and capital structure of an organization. So Treasury cares and is oftentimes the leader of the working capital roundtable that helps manage these. So they care about them because of the impact on the balance sheet.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess I'll do just a quick recap on this because this is a relatively short podcast today. So what are days payable and days receivable? So these are working capital terms and they're really measurements of efficiencies. So payables are payables that you have not settled, and the receivables are what you should be collecting. And these are important because they're really key in showing that you're turning your inventory into cash. And Treasury is specifically going to care about these because if there's inefficiencies, that means more capital, and then therefore that means Treasury is going to be impacted. Need to jump in. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to this?
No, I liked how you summarized it. It's really part of the great topic of working capital management and working capital optimization. So thank you for talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Craig. And again, to all of our listeners, make sure you tune in every first and third Thursday for a new episode. And if you ever want to reach out with questions, comments, or topic suggestions, you can send us an email at podcast@strategictreasurer.com. Thanks again, Craig.
This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.